Hey y'all, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Faridah and welcome back to my book nook. Okay, so today we're jumping back into book reviews. This is literally my second time filming the video because I filmed it yesterday and I realized I looked like trash. I look like trash right now too, but I already deleted the video, so I'm gonna refilm anyways. So the book I'm doing a review on, I actually wasn't planning on getting it until like my next haul, and then I got the book anyways and I read it in like the same day I got it. It is like a fairly new book. It only came out a couple days ago and I'm really excited to do a review on this book because I have a lot of thoughts on it. So the book I'm going to be reviewing today is Ace of Spades by Faridah Abiki-Iyimide. If I said the author's name wrong, please let me know. I'm terrible with pronouncing names. Yeah, anyways, so like I said, this is a fairly new book. I went to Target with my friend a couple days ago and I dragged her to the book aisle and I just saw this book lying there and it's on my TBR list. I was already planning on getting it for my next haul because I like to pre-plan what I get for my hauls. And I just saw it sitting there and I was like, how can I just like not take it? So I bought it and then I read it and now I'm gonna review on it. Yeah, I went to Target on the 2nd, I believe, and the book came out on the 1st. So I literally got it like the day after it was released. Can we just talk about how gorgeous this cover is though? Oh my god, I think this is like one of the prettiest book covers I've seen in a while. And I actually got this book recommendation from this, oh my god, this amazing Instagram account called Uppercase YA. By the way, I'm not like promoting them. I'm like, this is not like paid promo. I'm not important enough for them to like pay me to promo them. I just genuinely love their Instagram account. But their Instagram account is just filled with book recommendations for the YA genre, from like fan favorites to undercover picks to up and coming books, and that's how I found out about Ace of Spades. And I was really intrigued by the description and I looked it up and I did some more research on it and I really wanted to get this book. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Instagram account. I think y'all should definitely check it out. I love that account. I love like every single one of the books they recommend and like nearly all of them are on my TBR list. So before I get started on my actual review, I just want to break down how my book reviews work. My book reviews are broken down into 4 parts. Parts 1 and 4 will be spoiler free, but parts 2 and 3 will have spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, just watch parts 1 and 4 of my review. So part 1, I give my starting off thoughts and opinions about the book, just sort of like a beginning rambling, and I also give like a brief plot summary. Don't worry, spoiler free, it's just sort of what you would see on like, what's this called? The inside of like a book jacket or something. Yeah. Part 2, this part will have spoilers. I give my thoughts on plot, writing, and other elements. This is sort of where I give most of my praise, criticism, just overall thoughts on the story, and I do like to call like specific things from the plot, which is why I'm giving a spoiler warning. Part 3 of my review, I talk about characters and relationships, whether that be favorite characters, characters I hated, character traits, character development, and relationships, whether that be friendships, familial, or romantic relationships. And finally, part 4 of my review, I give my final thoughts and opinions as well as an overall rating of the book and answering the question, is it a must read? So let me just briefly sum that up one more time. Parts 1 and 4 will be spoiler free, but parts 2 and 3 will have spoilers. Part 1, beginning thoughts and opinions as well as a brief plot summary. Part 2, thoughts on plot, writing, and other elements. Part 3, characters and relationships. And part 4, final thoughts and opinions as well as an overall rating. Okay, great. Now let's get into the actual review. Okay, so part 1, beginning thoughts and opinions. Alright, so I started off reading this book not really knowing what to expect. I knew it was like a dark academia, Gossip Girl meets Get Out type of book. I've actually not seen Get Out. It's on my like watch list, but I've read the plot on Wikipedia because I do that. I read the plot of movies and books on Wikipedia whenever I get bored, so I've had a lot of things like pre-spoiled for me, I guess, because I don't know, because I get curious. Anyways, yeah, so I came in and I wasn't really sure what to exactly expect. I love dark academia books and I love a good mystery book, so, and I heard this was both. Then there's obviously also diversity and representation in this book, so I also want to check that out because I definitely want to include more diversity and representation in my books, because a lot of times, you know, YA is just white people, even when it's a fantasy world and like literal fairies and vampires can exist, but POC apparently can't. The book starts off sort of like Gossip Girl, right? And it draws you in with its drama and its whole like teen drama aspect. But by the end of the book, you're just kind of like, holy, what the did I just read? But in like a really good way. This book was just absolutely thrilling. I was just so invested in this book. It keeps you hooked on every line, and I'm pretty sure this is the author's debut novel as well. So being the author's debut novel, this is absolutely incredible. And the book also tackles, you know, heavy subjects, and it sort of takes those heavy subjects and just like forces it in your face and forces you to acknowledge them, but again, in a good way. So let me just give a brief plot summary. The book follows two main characters, Devon Richards and Chiamaka Adebayo, who both attend the private, prestigious, elite school of Nivea's Private Academy, or something like that. Right, so Devon and Chiamaka are selected to be senior prefect and head prefect. However, shortly after this announcement is made, a text message is sent out to the entire school from an anonymous alias, Aces. And Aces proceeds to reveal secrets about Chiamaka and Devon, and the secrets revealed start to get more dangerous and more threatening, and eventually Devon and Chiamaka team up to find out who Aces is, and together they uncover a more horrifying plot than you could ever imagine. So let's move on to part 2, thoughts on plot writing and other elements. Okay, now I'm going to start off by listing some of the criticisms I had of this book, because I definitely do have some criticisms of this book. Alright, so first off, I'm going to say that the pacing in this book is a little bit off. The beginning, I feel like, was a little bit too rushed, a little bit too fast. The pacing just kind of threw me off, you know. Specifically, Aces, the first text message is sent out within like the first like 20 pages or something, which I understand, like Aces is obviously, you know, the whole plot point that this story revolves around, but to me I feel like there should have been a little bit more build up, a little bit more tension into this. Also, Chiamaka revealing her and Jamie like killed Martha in that car accident, she revealed that in like the first 50 pages, and again, I understand it's an important plot point, but I feel like that could have been spaced out a little bit more. It could have been pushed back. Again, the pacing needs a bit of work, especially in the beginning. However, towards the end of the book, I think the pacing is a lot better, but overall the book just feels a little bit rushed, I guess, but it honestly doesn't matter that much. I am overly critical. So another criticism I had of this book was that some parts of this book were kind of predictable. Keyword, some parts, minor parts, little parts, because the overall scheme of things, I did not predict that. I could not predict that. Some parts of the book were a little bit predictable, like that whole part with the private academy's values, with like idealism, generosity, determination. I was like, those letters spell something out, don't they? They spell something out. I just don't know what it is. And I was right, they did spell something out. Something I'm not going to repeat on camera, and something I will never ever repeat. Moving on, I sort of predicted that whole word spelling thing. I just didn't know which word. Some other things I predicted were Chiamaka and Belle getting together, both Jamie and Terrell being in Aces somehow, and also the attacks being racially motivated in some sense. Like I said, these are very like small, minor plot points, I guess, because the overall scheme of things, the overall scheme of Aces, holy, I could never predict that. Are you kidding me? I think that's pretty much all the criticisms I have of this book. So the next thing I want to talk about is how this book tackles heavy subjects like racism, classism, sexism, and homophobia. It tackles basically all of them in this book. And most importantly, the book tackles racism, specifically racism against Black people, and racism in like these private academies. And we all know that these private academies are just feeder schools to Ivy Leagues, right? And they're just filled with these rich white kids whose parents are alumni or whatever, and built off of generational wealth. And they are just able to do whatever the they want, because again, they're rich white privileged kids. And this book perfectly delves into that topic and perfectly shows how these kids are able to get away with the most horrifying ever. I also love how this story had little microaggressions building up towards this final horrifying reveal of how this entire Aces secret society is secretly based off of decades and generations worth of racism. Like the little microaggressions that Jamie and the other little white kids make, I think highlight how there's always underlying racism. Obviously I'm not white, and I've definitely had to face a lot of microaggressions, and less than nice comments about my race, so it was definitely relatable seeing these little microaggressions. So like I said, this book starts off as a teen drama, you know, like Gossip Girl, with the whole aces sending out secrets, revealing all that secret stuff. I don't know. I'm not very coherent today. Then again, when am I ever coherent? Yeah, anyway, so the book starts off as Gossip Girl, but it ends like Get Out. And also, I just want to talk about how perfectly this book writes the white ally, which I will talk about in part 3 in characters, because I have specifically one white ally I want to touch on. I think this book just does such an incredible job talking about these heavy subjects and managing to integrate them into the story while also being interesting and thrilling, and just overall such an amazing book. And it also does talk about homophobia, classism, sexism, all that stuff. So I think the author did an amazing job talking about these subjects. So let's move on to part 3, characters and relationships. Okay, so let's start off with Devon. I love Devon. I think he deserves the world. He was such an amazingly written character. You know, he has to deal with not only racism at his school, but also homophobia, you know, within his community and within his family. And he also has to deal with classism as well, living in a poor community while he goes to this rich private school filled with white kids. And this man just went through so much. Like, he went through so much. I feel so bad for him. But it's really eye-opening, you know, because there definitely are people like Devon out there who has to deal with these struggles on a daily basis. Honestly, I'm just happy that Devon got his happy ending in the epilogue, even though I don't particularly like him and Terrell together that much. I'm still happy he's happy, because like I said, he deserves the world. Moving on to Chiyamaka. Now, I like Chiyamaka, however, one thing I noticed about her character was that she was kind of classist towards Devon, and I think the author purposely did that to make a critique on how elitism and classism sprouting from wealth can sort of affect everyone without even realizing it. However, I also did relate to Chiyamaka a lot. I am not a black woman of color, so I will never understand the level of racism they have to face, but I am still a woman of color, so I do understand Chiyamaka's whole struggle of wanting to fit in and changing your appearance and changing your attitude so you are the standard instead of other people bullying you. Like, that part was so relatable, especially with like the whole changing your appearance thing, and Chiyamaka's struggle with wanting to fit in while also wanting to stay connected to her culture. Just the whole thing was so relatable. So let's move on to some supporting characters. Now, like I said in part 2, I wanted to talk about one white ally specifically, and so I'm going to talk about Belle, who I think is just the perfect commentary on the white ally. So, you know, Belle was someone Chiyamaka trusted. She was, you know, an ally to her. However, I think Belle was just a whole other type of worse than everyone else, because she knew what she was doing was wrong. She knew what her family was doing is wrong, and she might have cried and she might have felt guilt about it, but at the end of the day, she did nothing to stop it. The only thing her crying did was feed her ego and soothe her guilt. She never made any actual effort to help Chiyamaka escape this terrifying situation. Belle may have thought she was a good person because she was able to think racism equals bad. But at the end of the day, she was just compliant and complicit to the other members of ACEs, who were all racist pieces of shit. Belle herself being a racist piece of shit. And Belle knows that what they're doing to Chiyamaka is so horrifyingly wrong, but she doesn't do anything to stop them. And yet she calls herself an ally to Chiyamaka because she thinks that she feels some guilt, that she's actually a good person. She's not. She's not. And I just think, I think the author did a wonderful job writing Belle's character, specifically as a critique on the white ally, you know, and specifically shows how you can never trust a white ally because they will always systematically oppress you. Their race will always be valued more than yours, and they will never ever understand what it's like to face systematic racism. I went on a bit of a rant there, I'm sorry. Moving on to other characters. Jamie. I only have 3 words for Jamie. Piece of sh**. Moving on. Alright, so moving on to part 4. Final thoughts and opinions. Okay, so overall, incredible book. Obviously, there are some criticisms I have of the book, but I think the overall idea and impact that the story has completely outweighs those criticisms. And I also think that this book should probably be cut some slack because it is the author's debut novel as well. Overall, I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars. Are we surprised? We shouldn't be surprised. As you all know by this point, I am a very generous reviewer. However, I genuinely do think that this book deserves 5 out of 5 stars because despite the criticisms I had of this book, it is such an important story and I think everybody should read it. So I guess I kind of answered my next question. Is it a must read? Yes, yes, yes. Definitely read it. If you're into the whole Gossip Girl thing, read it. If you're into the whole horrifying thriller, psychological thriller thing like Get Out, read it. If you're into dark academia, read it. So if you're looking for some more diversity on your shelves, read it. Just overall such an amazing book, and I think everyone definitely needs to read it because it does address heavy and important topics in a very satisfying and still interesting way. So yeah, everybody read this book. Okay, so I think those are all my thoughts and opinions on the book. If you watched this entire video, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, don't give it a thumbs up. If you really hated this video and hated my review, give it a thumbs down. By the way, I got my first dislike on a YouTube video. New milestone, I guess. I find it funny more than anything because that video only has like 10 views. So like one of like 10 people took time out of their day to dislike my video. I just find that so funny. Anyways, I'm still gonna count that as a new milestone though, so first dislike, y'all. This is probably gonna annoy somebody and make them give me another dislike. Whatever. Again, thank y'all so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!